Okay, so in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at the symbols, rituals, and customs of Islam, and we're going to try and connect this to its historical development and the core values and beliefs of Islam. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is symbols. So Islam is to be devoid of all status and paintings, as Muslims believe that individuals should not worship anything other than Allah or Muhammad, or well, actually not Muhammad, sorry, anything other than Allah. So this means that there must not be any images of Allah or Muhammad. This is connected to the historical development of Islam, as we know. There was a great variation in worship during Islam's creation, with many idols and totems being worshipped, and Islam sought to change this practice. So very strictly, there are to be no images of anyone of prominence or importance in Islam, so that people don't mistakenly worship them over Allah. Therefore, mosques contain only calligraphy and ambiguous images, and you'll never see an image you'll never see an image of Allah or Muhammad in a mosque, and all historical motifs of Muhammad in his life include no face, which we saw in a previous lesson, to ensure that he will not be worshipped. So one example of the ambiguous calligraphy or images in Islam, which is the star and crescent moon, so that's this one here. It has first appeared on the Kaaba, and Muhammad had allowed these symbols to remain intact, therefore sending the message that this symbolism was acceptable in Islam. So as a consequence, it is a very popular Islamic image and is often found on mosques and flags of Islamic countries. Bismillah is another example. And that's Bismillah there. Here's a motif which reads, "As in the name of Allah," and again appears in most mosques globally, and it clearly represents a core fundamental belief of Islam, which is the submission and worship of Allah, which again kind of links to that core belief and value that was created in its in the 600 AD. So another symbol frequently used in Islam is the eight-pointed star, so that's this one here, and it's prevalent throughout the Muslim world. So due to restrictions surrounding the usage of imagery in Islam, as we know, Muslims have often used geometry and shapes to express themselves religiously and artistically, and therefore it's not really a meaningful symbol, however will often be used with surahs, so passages of the Quran within it. So this one just has drawings inside the star, and like I said, it's quite an ambiguous image. It doesn't really represent anything. However, we'll see potentially in the mosque as we go to visit, but you'll see in other mosques as well, sometimes this eight-point star has surahs written in Arabic within the star. So rather than having this drawing, there'll be surahs. So the last symbol of Islam I will cover is the prominent but less acceptable evil eye. This symbol of Islam is a clear example of the intertwining of culture and time with religion. It is mostly found in the Middle East in countries like Turkey and Afghanistan, and is found in mostly jewelry, figurines, and other cultural products. So it's believed to symbolize Satan's eye, and it's a cultural production of medieval Muslim superstition. It's believed that evil spirits and atmosphere will be drawn away from an individual and into the eye. However, this is a really important point. This symbol contradicts a fundamental belief of Islam, which is shirk, and this means searching for help and protection from something other than Allah. Because Muslims because some Muslims wear the evil eye and they believe that this evil eye has power, they're not necessarily worshipping it, but they're recognizing the significance of something or the power of something outside of Allah, and that is what is considered to be haram, which in Islam means religiously prohibited, and therefore this is a cultural practice, not necessarily an Islamic practice, but the two are intertwined in some countries, because Muslims kind of connect this to their religion. But yeah, I just want to stress this is very much a cultural practice, not a religious one. So all rituals within Islam derive from most of the Quran, and then from the Sunnahs and the Hadiths, which is centered around Muhammad's life and how he lived. So as we already know, the main rituals of Islam are the 5 pillars, which most practicing Muslims will do on a daily or annual basis globally. So we already know about those rituals, and all Muslims pretty much practice them. So they're the main ones. There's no need to go over them again, but we remember them as Salat, Swam, Hajj, and I'm not saying these in order, Zakat, and Shahada. So, however, there are other less prominent rituals of Islam which most Muslims will partake in. However, with various cultural variations, they are not religiously mandated but are based off Muhammad's life. So, there are clear interpretations within these rituals, and some Muslims follow these religiously, others follow them to some extent, and like I said, there's lots of cultural interpretations and variations within this. So the first ritual most Muslims will partake in is when they are born, their parents and family members will whisper the call to prayer in the child's ear, which the shortened version of is, Allah is great, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, come to prayer. They will then hold a naming ceremony 7 days after birth. At this ceremony, the child's hair is shaved off and the equivalent of the baby's weight is given in silver or gold to the poor or charities. The child is then given the name of an important Muslim or someone from Prophet Muhammad's family. Another clear ritual of Islam can be seen in marriage. Weddings rarely take place in a mosque, as mosques are reserved for worshipping God. Instead, they are usually married in someone's house or in a hall. There are always two adult witnesses of the Islamic faith present, which usually encompasses the families of the bride and the groom. The marriage vows are centered around their religious values, attitudes, and beliefs, and recognize the role of God in the marriage. So, for example, I promise to do everything to make the marriage an act of obedience to God. That is a marriage vow that both the bride and the groom will say to each other during their marriage. So again, we can see that there's clear values and beliefs enshrined in their marriage rituals as well, because like I said, they will not get married in a mosque because that is not what you do in mosque. It's only there for worshipping God, and their clear values around and beliefs around God's role in each individual life is kind of spelled out in their marriage vows as well. So rituals around death are again enshrined in religious worship. So the body is washed and wrapped in a plain white cloth. The body is carried to the mosque in a coffin where family members, friends, and the local community will say prayers, recognizing God's will in their death. Then the body is taken for burial. So Muslims prefer to bury the body without a coffin, as they believe the body should be in direct contact with the soil. However, they will only do this if they are allowed to. This also, again, connects to a strong belief in Islam, which is that all Muslims, no matter where they are, should follow the laws of the country they are a part of, as long as it doesn't impede on very core values and beliefs of Islam, which burying a body, whilst it is a belief in Islam, is not a core belief. So they will always follow the laws of the country over their religious laws whenever possible. The body is buried with the head pointed towards Mecca, again recognising that significance of Mecca to Islam and to Muslims. And then after the burial, friends and family will mourn for 7 days, and on the last day they visit the grave and read prayers from the Quran. So again, recognising the significance and importance of the Quran to Muslims. So similar to rituals, there are also a variety of customs and traditions. However, the frequency and styles of practice vary between cultures and countries. So again, there's lots of cultural influence and cultural interpretation of these customs as the same for rituals. Again, similar to the rituals, customs are closely linked to the idea of submission, and here are some examples of customs Muslims practice throughout the Islamic world, again with great variation that kind of, again, is linked to that religious beliefs and values of Islam. So one example of a custom is pronouncing God's name before eating or drinking. Again, another one is using the right hand for eating and drinking. As Muslims, they do this because Muslims believe that on the Day of Judgment they will receive their records in their right hand. So they want to kind of recognise the right hand as significant and as prominent. So trimming the moustache, removing hair from the pubic area and from under the armpits, clipping their nails, and male circumcision. These customs are all linked to Muhammad's teachings in the Hadiths of the importance of physical cleansing. So lots of Muslims will make sure that they're physically clean in order to kind of show that they are living up to the standards Muslims are expected to. And then just general cleanliness. So in regards to nose hair, cleaning oneself after going to the toilet, cleaning oneself after menstruating and having sex, as well as abstaining from sex whilst menstruating, again is linked to Muhammad's teachings in the Hadiths of the importance of physical cleansing or cleaning. And they're all examples of acts of submitting oneself to God, because they're sacrificing aspects of themselves, like not having sex during menstruation, and also taking their time out to ensure that they are as clean as possible to allow them to worship God wholly. So, yeah, those are some of the rituals and the customs, and rituals and customs of Islam, and the symbols of Islam. Again, we can see that there's clear links to its historical development, as well as the core beliefs and values of Islam.